Well, you'll never know who you're going to meet at a climate rally in Washington, D.C., and I have the great pleasure of meeting a friend of the show, Marc Morano of climatedepot.com. Marc, of course, you were here to take in the great Greta and her speech. First of all, what do you make of this phenomenon, and what did you make of the turnout here today in D.C.?
It's not really about what she has to say, it's the symbolism. And she has been captured by the media, the climate activists, the establishment, as the face of the movement of climate change. And she is essentially trying to shame governments around the world. She went out to the EU and spoke. She's spoken at other countries. And now she's going to be speaking to the United States Congress next week. And Greta was invited by the Democrats on one of the committees. I do not expect Republicans to do any kind of pushback at all on this committee. I expect them. I don't even know if Republican members will show up. That's how intimidated they will be by someone like Greta. The one thing Greta has right, actually, is that if people truly believe we face a climate crisis, they're not willing to change their lives or do anything. She gave a whole story about how she was at the Swedish parliament and how everyone just ignored her and went about their business. And even in her own family, no one thought to do anything. It just goes to show you that most people don't actually believe that we face the crisis. She believes it. She's internalized it. She talked about losing massive amounts of weight. She talked about selective mutism, not talking to people, going into a deep depression because she so deeply believed there was a climate emergency. And that is a tragedy of the adults around her and the handlers or anyone, her parents, to allow someone to feel this when it's number one, not the case. And even if we faced the climate catastrophe, there's nothing that Parliament in the EU or the United States Congress could pass to save us from a climate catastrophe and allow Greta and her school kids to go back to school. There, we've secured our future. She openly says there's no reason for her to go to school because she has no future unless Congress, much like medieval witchcraft, much like medieval judges and rulings, alters the course of climate through laws, legislation. She believes this with her heart. And frankly, there's no grown-ups around. And even in Washington, I expect the Trump administration to be silent, Republicans in Congress to be silent. In a sad way, this is how movements gain strength and with no pushback. There is no pushback in Washington on this. People can talk about the powerful fossil fuel interests, but they are talking about muted, to use Greta's own description of herself. And in Washington, especially hopeful, the first few years of the Trump administration overturning what Obama did. But as of right now, even if you look at a Trump second term, there's no ambitious policies. They've canned the Climate Commission. This is essentially, I think, the capitulation of anyone fighting this movement. And I'm sorry to be the downer here today for a lot of people, but it's what I truly believe. Greta is just there at the right time. She's going to ride the momentum. And again, no pushback. There's no one arguing against what people are claiming today. People ridiculing it, making fun of it on some level on Twitter and all that, but that's not going to push back on the actual issue here.
And Marc, it should be worth noting that the very premise of her coming over in that zero emissions yacht, once you drill down into that, we find out, I think it was the support team taking several jet flights in order to bring the yacht back and what have you, and the fact that this thing is made out of carbon and it costs millions. So even the idea that I'm leading by example, not quite true, is it?
No. In fact, what's so funny about that is actually they originally reported on that. The mainstream media reported that this carbon neutral trip she was taking over actually involved transatlantic flights. It was made out of carbon fiber and it was, plastics and all kinds of heavy, intensive fossil fuel use. But now, if you read all the mainstream summaries of it, she came over on a boat without flying. They make it sound like it was pristine with no other issues involved. The media is just doing what it always does. But what's missing this time around is there's no serious, from the government, any pushback on this whole movement right now. In fact, the Trump administration will be sending delegates to the UN Paris Agreement as observers. We're still not out of the UN Paris Agreement. And what this needs is a forceful pushback. We need our own 16-year-old. I'm kidding. I don't want to use kids at all. I love the mini AOC. That's the way you use kids. That was just a kid that was having fun and making fun of AOC, Atasia Cortez. But in terms of Greta, it's a sad situation, but she has found her calling. She is, the face of a generation movement here, and I think, she's only going to grow in power and momentum by Christmas, after the UN summit, after New York City UN climate summit, after testifying before Congress. She'll even be more well known and less touchable, if you mean what I mean, is that no one's going to be able to do any criticism or dare criticize her.
Hey folks, if you liked that video, please press like and subscribe, and never miss another Rebel video.